good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with T&L. I'm Ty.
I'm Lori. And as you know, we don't really sugarcoat anything on this show at all. We keep it real. That's the old term slang that I grew up with in California. And we really don't dance or skirt around issues. We like to speak the truth about what matters, especially in the world of public safety.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today, guys. Fitness in law enforcement, or better yet, fitness for first responders. We're going to obviously focus more on the law enforcement side just because of the experience that both Lori and I have, but this could apply to anybody who is in a first responder role. But before we dive into that, Coach Lori is going to talk about the metabolomics tests and the results of all the work that she's been putting in and the improvements in her health that she actually got written results to show the changes. So let's start with that.
True. So we always preach about how we eat, how we work out, sleep, all the things. And then at some point, someone's going to be like, prove it. So we can on many levels. And the latest one is the metabolomics test. It's one of the spotlight tests from Designs for Health. And as a practitioner for Designs for Health, I order them for myself, family, friends, patients, or health clients, whatever you want to call them, and members here. And we see a lot of good things. We get a lot of information. So the 2 points, if you remember from a few episodes back, were what's going on with my oxidative stress.
Oh, yes.
Because when I took it the first time, it was like, I wanted to pretend it was the high end of yellow, but it was really the low end of red. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my gosh, what? Because my greatest worry was that, hey, I spent so much of my life like unhealthy. Am I going to have a long life, right? Can I reverse the damage? And then I wanted to check my cortisol because I'm always stressed out. Like I was always stressed out, right? Always so much going on, just from life in general. And I think just growing up with a super stressed out, like, mom, like that shit wears down on you. so it kind of makes you like more stressed out than you need to be. So the good news is cortisol's perfect on the low end of the green. So wonderful. Like for the first time in my life, my adrenal glands are like, thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. And then the coolest thing ever is from being in the low end of the red on the functional spectrum, right? That's green, yellow, red. I'm non-detectable for oxidative stress.
Hold on.
Yes.
It's something. So you went from being basically high yellow, low red,
yeah.
to basically non-existent.
Yeah. It's like, and it's the little thing with DL, so not detectable.
Are you serious?
No detectable level of it at all, which is super cool. So for those of you that don't understand oxidative stress and you've never lived in the country, but you've seen an old movie with an old Ford and the grass growing around it and the bumpers rusted, like that's my insides, that's my cells, it's my mitochondria. Like nothing's really thriving in there. Like I'm a rusty old bumper is what I felt like when I saw that test. And I was like, no, I want to live and have great grandkids and see the world. Like I want to do things, right?
I
So
want to be the tow truck from Cars.
Tomater.
Yeah, Mater.
See, we got this down now. Disney's like, thanks for the shout out. But so yeah, I think checking in every year or two to see how your gut's doing, how your metabolic pathways are doing, especially that Krebs cycle, like how's the energy, what's up with ATP, what's up with our mitochondria. Hearing a lot about that now with Medfix, right? So it was worth the money always to do it, and I've never felt more relief that I can actually roll back the damage I did to myself before I really understood what health was. So
really quickly, I'm just curious, where was the cortisol at the start?
So the cortisol was like up in red. Yeah.
Red as well.
It was like, hey lady, maybe you should meditate or something, it was pretty bad. So, and you can see that they're in my office. Yeah. Yeah. I posted about it a few days ago on the Coach Lori Instagram. It's just so people can kind of get a snapshot. It's 14 pages of like tons of things measured, but since those were the two that I was most concerned with, that's all I posted. Because people will be like, damn, I can't swipe fast enough to get through these 28 pages, 14 of before and after, right? So yeah.
I'm just curious too. I know that everyone who watches probably knows why, but what do you think truly caused all these changes? I want you to just tell them everything that you did from that first test to now that helped you get.
I mean, it was a process. So then I had we did 75 hard, and then I was really big on macro balancing. So I really made those changes to like try to hone in on food and activity and taking time for myself. And then when I finally figured out that, oh no, insulin resistance is back, I worked nonstop to make that a thing of the past again. And then within the last, it's only been about a month and a half, I am doing those NAD injections like we talked about, which only further helps the whole, Krebs cycle, which is, I know from a genomics perspective with my genetic mutations, that's not like 10 out of 10 for me. So I've done all the work. I've done all the deep diving. I've looked at my health from every aspect. And then I stop with the excuses of like genetics. I'm tired. And by the way, no excuse May. Going swimmingly. Haven't used one single excuse all month.
Yeah.
I have not. I've not. And I even came back from a 30-minute delay flying back from Arizona, trained the client, worked out last night, day 10 in a row. I haven't even had a rest day. Got my webinar in poolside in Litchfield Park, Arizona. They haven't missed anything. Like, and it feels really good. Like there's something freeing to just cutting all of that excuse nonsense out. Because we really just hold ourselves back. We have the time because it's that important,
I
right?
was gonna say too, and for obviously nobody here knows, but I had even given you that option since you were traveling to skip the podcast. You're like, nope, let's go.
Let's go.
No excuses.
Yeah,
Love it.
definitely. So that way, even if we are out of town for a week, you'll still get your podcast every week. Staying ahead of the game. All right. So today we were inspired to dive into, fitness for first responders. I love this because the Broken Science actually posted for National Law Enforcement Week, right? The importance of why CrossFit started for police, military, fire. So Glassman not only created CrossFit and Broken Science, but MetFix as well. And when Greg posted about it, we were like, hey, now's the time. Let's do this. Let's have this episode.
Absolutely.
And you want me to read what he said? I'll just read it verbatim because there's no way I was going to memorize this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the physical demands of defensive tactics and arrest and control require a broad-based general adaptation. This is not the domain of the specialist. Survival will be awarded on average to those men and women who've secured the most generalized physical capacity. They will, by necessity, be strong, fast, quick reacting, accurate, and flexible. This broad adaptation is well developed by design within the CrossFit arena.
Absolutely. And so I just want to start first off, that quote right there says it all. And one of the reasons that me and Lori feel like it is okay for us to talk about this is because we both have a law enforcement background. And so it'd be one thing if we were people who never were in the field, but as two people who spent time in the field, we definitely understand the demands that the job has. And Glassman's right, it is obviously much, much better to be a little bit more generalized because you don't know what each day will bring. There's no planned out, okay, this is what's going to happen every single time. I'm going to be set. So all I need to know is this one skill to make it home. That's never the case because you never know what the day brings, whether it's going to be you in a fight or whether it's you having to do something to actually save somebody else's life. And it requires that kind of strength to pull somebody, say, out of a car or something of that nature. And that's what we mean by you never know what the day brings, which is why fitness in this field is so huge. So I'm going to let Lori talk about her experience with the Carson Sheriff's Office in Nevada. Yeah. And then I'll talk about a little bit of mine. And then that's just letting you guys know that, hey, we know it's not just randomness. And that's what we're going to bring to this podcast, our own personal experiences.
Awesome. So mine's from a civilian perspective, right? I ran gang intel for the Carson City gang unit that was headed by Mark Marshall and Peeker, right? Worked for that. I also was like an admin assistant, which is a glorified word for secretary for patrol, right? All the things, and sat on the hiring board with Lieutenant Sandage and did things like that. But I worked with these guys and women all the time, and it was shocking to me, like they would get paid to pass a physical exam every year if they chose to do it. So you had a group of people that were super unfit, that like could not hop a fence and catch a bad guy if their life depended on it. There were people that were not keeping up on fitness, hopped a fence, and then needed knee surgery. Like you would see all the different things happen because it wasn't. I think the fitness aspect wasn't as respected as it should have been for them, and every department's different, and it's a very generalized statement for the 4 years that I was there. Like I don't know what it's like now or what they do, um, but like as an FTO, you've got a program to go through, you've got physical stuff, agility, all the different things, whether it's at the city, state level, whether it's federal, like FBI agent, like you have these things that you have to do to get into it, but then people are not necessarily maintaining that level of fitness once they're in. And then there's generally a huge shift from when you'd go from patrol to detectives of like physical movement too, because then it's more of it's an office job and showing up and you're not working, around the clock in graves or chasing bad guys on foot, all the different things like that. So those were the observations I made. Because they certainly went out drinking every night with my cop buddies at the end of shift anyways. Like that's what it was back then. We called it choir practice and we'd hang out after work and everyone would kind of decompress from the day. You wouldn't think Carson City has like a gang problem, but if you follow like up through California, there'd be like a dropping off of people and guns and drugs in Carson on the way to Reno and then come back and then shoot up I-5. I mean, there was like this whole thing, and then, street vibes and all the different like things to bring up a lot of riffraff. So the gang unit kept us busy trying to get that going
Absolutely.
and understanding all of that. But for me personally, I didn't have to do anything physical, but I started there, which helped me because then a few years later, when I wrapped up my master's and teaching at UNR, I wanted to get on to FBI. So I had applied for that and I was getting ready for Quantico if I ever made it that far, which I did not because that wasn't important after 9/11 happened, right? It was a whole different mindset. So,
well, still, but you were obviously in the field, and you were able to actually look at these individuals from an observation point,
yeah,
and that still counts because you were able to tell who was taking fitness seriously and who wasn't, and you also know probably what that led to for certain people who
yeah,
didn't take it seriously and where they may be now, and the ones that did, and how that's helped them throughout their career. Like
yeah,
you could actually look at that from more of a, like, I was standing by watching you guys for these 4 years, so you could definitely see what it looks like when you're doing it right and what it looks like when you let fitness go and how it affects everything else.
everything, including mental health too. Like we lost a few guys to suicide. A couple drank themselves to death. Like it's a hard. I have the utmost respect for law enforcement. What they see and do on a daily basis is everyone should be so grateful for what they do to keep all of us safe. And it's taxing. It's not as if they have a switch and they're like, okay, Men in Black
Oh yeah.
forgot the whole thing.
Good.
Horrible day watching my friend die, or like some horrible thing. So it's taxing for them, and that physical fitness for those that stayed very active and very like you are with your physical work, and you're working out inside and outside the gym. Like they maintain the best throughout and after their law enforcement career 100%.
So I'm going to just shed a little bit of light on mine as well. I will keep it simple. Basically, almost well, a little bit more than a decade in the law enforcement field. I started my career in my 20s in state prison, where I obviously had to earn some stripes there, and where fitness was definitely something that was taken very serious. After that, I went on to work in a police department here in the Bay Area. During that time, multiple spots, special investigations. I was also on SWAT. The other thing that it doesn't really come up, but I was actually an instructor at the police academy. I used to teach at the College of San Mateo, so I got to see the exact programs that were being run for everybody who was new coming in. And I also got to be one of the instructors for PT as well. So I was able to bring in some of my own knowledge and stuff to kind of help advance and get these guys up to a higher standard. But I could say from that experience, I was definitely able to see multiple types of fitness levels, multiple people's mindset towards it, whether it be someone who's in prison to your basic guys on patrol to the guys who I was working with upstairs. And like I said, even to the fresh pups who just got hired on in the police academy and where their mindset was. So that's why Lori and I feel like it's okay for us to kind of talk about this topic. We're not blind to it. Now, that said, let's get it going. Get on the script there.
All right, the foundation is broken.
So, traditionally, most of the law enforcement training has always been almost like your basic 90s boot camp style lot of running, a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, basically something that you would expect in, like I said, an Army basic boot camp. You're not really doing a lot of stuff when it comes to weights. You're not doing a whole lot of lifting. It's more just how can I get these people basically quote unquote fit. And that's what the basic mindset of fitness was. As long as you could run and you could probably push your body up, you're strong. But as time has gone on, we have found out that that is a very, very small portion of fitness. And there's not a lot that's actually taking place with that. So in the future, uh, how do I say this? I can say that I've seen certain changes where more CrossFit style, more high intensity training has been included, but it is still something that not every department has accepted yet. And they're still sending out individuals into the field, not at their best, not really thinking about how important fitness is in the field. So the other thing that we're going to talk about right now is going to be why this model was that way. And the reason why they started that is because in the military, that is what they found worked. But what they didn't take into account with that is that not only were they just doing that in the military, that was just for them to meet a certain standard to where everyone was at a certain weight, who everybody could run. And it was just it was a good way to get a large group of individuals fit. Because if you're dealing with a military boot camp with 200 plus individuals, that's very different than trying to get, a 15 people in a police academy trained. It isn't the same thing. And so, yes, in that situation, having easier, broad things like running, push ups, and sit ups, that's a great way to basically train a large group. But again, it wasn't getting the job done, but that was what the mindset was and why it was accepted in law enforcement at the start of policing. So, Coach Lord, I know that I kind of cut into some stuff.
No, you're good. I saw this though, the physical ability test. I actually did that with Sparks PD. I was trying to get on with them while waiting for the FBI, but wanted to go like the federal route. It was a 1.5 mile run, a 3/4 mile sprint under a certain time. We actually had to jump and hit a target, jump to a target, push-ups. But I want to say they were like the FBI one where they're on the knees for women. And then I did not have to do pull-ups. And back when I was looking at the FBI one, there was a bar on the ground and you put your legs out like a ring row on your heels and just do pull-ups that way. So now, as like a CrossFitter of 12 years, I thought I was in decent shape then. Like it's night and day. And the thing is, I understand like nobody was really thinking outside of the box of this is just what we do. But that's not how the streets work. So like when you're encountering a horrible situation or a dangerous situation, or you've got to pull someone right, all these different things that are going on, your 1.5 mile time really isn't going to make or break you. So like that's why, yeah, I mean, you see, yeah. So looking, hindsight is 2020. Even having just done one, the physical ability test, it was just sort of like, okay, well that's cool, but I can do 10 times more, and I'm like 48 now. So I was like 27, 26, 27 then? Yeah, it was like 20 years ago. Because I remember when COVID hit and they shut down the gym, I was like, maybe I can go get on with the FBI. And they're like, you're too old now. I was like, wow. There's like an age cap. And now it's like the FBI is like falling apart. Companies about like whole thing's crazy. That's a whole other episode. But yeah, I didn't even realize like there's like age limits on things there too. So but I'd be kicking my 28-year-old's ass right now.
And that's what's crazy.
That's what's crazy,
That's
right?
what's crazy because and I kind of laugh about that because I can attest. I know that there's someone who's in their 20s who probably just got hired, who you are stronger than, you are faster than,
Yeah.
but because of this whole age requirement, it's that just drives me crazy because once again, it should be number one. If the individual is strong enough to do the task, then they should have a chance to obviously have the job.
Yeah.
It should be simple as that.
In all things. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now that's a very, very good point. And this is how come the broad style or just push-ups and sit-ups and running doesn't work. Because as we kind of talked about at the start, you and I both know the job changes every single day. And so we could just talk about the non-stress things like climbing in and out of the car. That's something that you're doing constantly. You're always having to climb in and get back in, climb in, get back in, climb in, get back out. That obviously has wear and tear on the back, coupled with the fact that you're wearing duty gear and other things. And so, me and you both know if an individual obviously doesn't have core strength and they probably don't have proper posture, and now they're wearing this 27 plus pound belt, getting in and out of the car all day, they're putting so much wear and tear on their body. And that's not even the hard part of the job. That's just day one showing up.
Yeah.
And it's all, and most do not even realize that that alone is taxing their body. And if they're already not doing anything to keep up with it, you just getting in the car is going to be an issue. And I always hear costs, oh, dude, my freaking lower back.
Lower back.
Lower back, my lower back, my lower back. And it is something that could have been mitigated through fitness. Now, let's talk about the other things on the job that people don't really talk about that aren't really stressful, but they still require work. Not only are you having to carry that gear, you're having to go for calls, which you're having to walk up and down the street, you're having to go up and down stairs, you're having to do all of this movement. And so a lot of cops have this weird mindset where they think, well, I'm moving at work, so I'm working out, which you and I both know.
So different.
That's not the case.
We like to think that. I used to think that, hey, I walked today at Disneyland. That's a good workout. Don't get back to the room and do burpees and sit-ups and squats. Give yourself a Metcon because that's a workout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Walking around Europe was pleasurable and 20 miles a day, but it's not the same.
There's a difference. Exactly. Yeah. And there's a difference. And so obviously, and now what most people usually talk about, which is the harder things, like if you're in a fight, if you're having to rescue somebody, let's say that there's a call of some kids who are trapped somewhere, and now you have to not only make your way to wherever they may be, but you may have to now, while you're tired, have to pull them out or do something else. So that is why this is a job where the whole entire fitness aspect needs to be a lifetime mindset.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. And that's how come I love that Glassman had mentioned that, was because most cops don't see fitness as a lifetime thing. Most of them see this as, I need to do this to either get the job, or I need to do this to pass the police academy.
Mm-hmm.
And most, usually after that, most stop. And that's what's crazy to me, is that most actually stop. And here's what's even worse, is that most people who usually stay in fitness, once they're done with the police academy, I would say almost 8 times out of 10, it was somebody who had a fitness mindset prior. And that's usually kind of that separating factor. And I've witnessed that, where guys who were already fit prior to them getting hired, they naturally carried that the rest of their career, because it was more who they were, as opposed to the individuals who just wanted to get fit so they could get the job. Those were usually the ones, once someone pinned a badge, it's almost like you literally watched the badge come on and the stomach grew at the same time. It was those type of things.
I think it's like bros time right now. It's happening. Yeah.
But so, and then the other thing that I was going to talk about, though, the last thing I'm going to talk about, is some of the more strenuous aspects. And when I say strenuous, that's the fights with suspects. The fights with suspects are usually, they're intense, they're usually short. And like Lori said, it doesn't matter about your 1.5 mile time. If you're in a spot where, let's say you've been driving around for almost 8 hours in your 10-hour shift, and you show up to a call that's just, let's say it's just a regular guy at Starbucks causing the scene. You're like, okay, whatever. You're not warmed up. You haven't done anything. You walk out. You're like, hey, sir, let me speak with you. And he turns and charges you. You now have to be expected to not only use some kind of force, but you're also expected to have to get this individual into custody while doing it within policy, doing it safely, not hurting yourself, not hurting him.
Yeah.
All despite how you may feel. It doesn't matter that you've been in a car. The suspect isn't going to be like, all right, I'll give you a 15-minute warm up. I'll let you get an AMRAP in. And then after that, we could have our dispute. And so that's how come, number one, you never know when chaos is going to hit. So.
And that makes me think of, it's not how you feel, it's what you do no matter how you feel. And that's the CrossFit mindset that bleeds into all things in life, right? So, okay, I feel exhausted because I've been riding around in a car for 8 hours. But then I get out and meth head man is like causing a scene in Starbucks and I gotta take him down. So it's like, you don't get to feel tired anymore. That adrenaline kicks up. And like you said, it's not like, it's kind of like when someone goes from, I'm gonna break it down in like layman's terms for my CrossFitters. Like when we teach you the snatch and power position 3, 2, 1, and it's broken down, you don't get to think about your snatch. You don't get to think about how to take this guy down, keep everyone in Starbucks safe, not get killed, not hurt him. It has to be instinctive. You have to know this now, and your body has to be able to rise to that occasion. And a 1.5 mile run did not get you there, nor did like 50 sit-ups in under 2 minutes. Like it's not like that. So that's what I was thinking about too. It's not how you feel, it's what you do no matter how you feel. Like, yeah,
and
that's kind of the thing.
And that is so true. That is it on the head.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Surprise! I come up with these like little gems, little nuggets of truth. I don't know. But yeah, so the unpredictable life or death moments that you're literally talking about is why this old archaic idea of just basic like boot camp training, running, sit-ups, pull-ups, push-ups is not enough to keep everybody safe. Because if that man or woman cop that comes in to apprehend the suspect, the bad guy, or the person that's causing a scene, right, can't do their job well, everyone's at risk.
Yeah. So we
have to talk about that too, right?
Yeah, let's be honest. Let's break that scenario down. Let's say that I'm not fit. I'm a little bit tired because I've already been driving around for 8 hours in my shift. And now I come out there and I confront this individual. God forbid I lose that fight. What if he takes my gun?
Yeah.
What if he takes my freaking taser? I now put everyone, like you just said, in that Starbucks at risk. I put my life at risk. Everybody from here on out, now that this individual who obviously had their heart on doing bad, I just gave them a tool to make it even worse. And it's something that could have been technically prevented if I would have taken time to actually train. And so that's the thing that most people usually don't want to talk about is what if the fight goes bad?
Yeah.
And that's the other reason, because it is not just you who is going to be hurt. You are going to, by you in this role that you've chosen as a first responder, you're expected to be the thing that controls everything. You're expected to be the one to show up and restore the peace and restore the calmness. You're not expected to show up and be the one who makes it even worse.
Yeah.
That's a bad day. And so, yeah, like I'm honestly glad that you brought up that flip side of the coin, because yeah, it could be one thing if you're struggling in the fight, but you still win. But God forbid it goes completely wrong, and now this guy grabs a gun and starts shooting everyone in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then that's a fucking terrible day.
That's cool.
So we're going to move into some more current science. We're going to talk about some things that have changed as of recently. So I'm going to read this just so we're on the same page. In 2023, a study came out called Evolution of Physical Training in Police Academies, comparing fitness variables. It compared calisthenics, functional fitness, and strength training across police recruits. Yep. So I'm going to let Lori talk about what their conclusion was.
So their conclusions. Tactical strength coaches shouldn't just chase numbers in one area. They need to build recruits up in all areas that matter on the street. That means strength, endurance, agility, flexibility, and mental durability. And that's true. Like and all of those things, that's exactly what they need to be doing. That's why when people come into our gym because they want to be a cop or a fireman or get into the military, they spend months here doing that, right?
Exactly.
And now the continuum. So, then if an academy or whatever training for whatever department you're going to provides training like that, now we're getting somewhere, right?
Yeah. Now we are getting somewhere. And so what I love about that is this is why I love this conclusion, was because all of those aspects are absolutely true. You need the strength so that you're strong enough to not only do your job, to obviously deal with the suspect, but like we also talked about, strong enough to help others. You need to have endurance in the event that you do have to chase somebody, or say that you have to. One of the calls that I remember at my agency, there was a paraglider who was gliding and ended up crashing down and dying. So now we obviously have to hike down to where this individual was at. That takes endurance. Mm-hmm. That's not a complete, physical type fighting type thing. But once again, now you're expected to go down in this full hike to try to find this guy who just died. while you're still wearing your gear and your vest and everything else. So that is the endurance aspect, the agility aspect, something that I'm gonna bring this up. I'm not gonna mention any names. We were chasing a guy down Mission Street, and he was going like in between, in and out of cars, and then ducked into a restaurant, into a restroom. So not only did the officer who was chasing him not know that he was about to be in this whole entire all-out sprint, the dude's jucking, turning, fast-paced movements. God forbid the other cop wouldn't have been fit. You and I have seen people tear their Achilles doing a freaking burpee warm-up.
Yeah.
So let alone, once again, you have to be agile. You have to be able to move. You have to be comfortable in your skin. You can't be stiff.
Yeah.
You have to be agile. You have to be flexible. All those things play a role. And the last one that you just had, that you mentioned, the mental durability. I would say this is probably the one that doesn't get talked about at all, about number one, the how fitness helps your mental health when it comes to dealing with stress. You're obviously proof of that because you've already cleared up all your oxidative stress. But so for somebody who is in this field and they are dealing with stressful environments every day, and you're still choosing not to work out, I can't imagine how your head is even operating. Because that alone is a lot. And minus you taking pills, the only other way that you're going to fix this is through fitness.
Yeah.
So I am glad that they touched on the whole mental aspect. And like you also said, people act like that stress isn't real. You and I both know cops who have killed themselves due to the stress of this job or how their lives have turned out because of just dealing with dealing with these calls, dealing with the images of the things that they've seen, dealing with seeing the side of the world that most people will never see, and it being almost too much for them mentally, and they just end it. And so all of these are I'm not saying that if the cop would have done CrossFit and he wasn't going to kill himself, but I'm going to say that it definitely would have played a role on his mental stress and his well-being.
Yeah.
We could both attest to that.
Because if your outlet to stress is drinking, which is a depressant, or popping pills from a doctor, which is legal because it's a prescription, but they have side effects. Like a lot of people get on antidepressants and there's more self-harm that comes from that, right? There's a whole misunderstanding behind that too. But you come in here and you work out and you have a constructive outlet while building your mind, body, and your spirit too. Like you're just happier. Like you're more receptive to the things life offers. You're more present every day because you're not like self-medicating with negative things that just further bring you down and add to that despondency that a lot of our friends get to, from work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think whether it's CrossFit, whatever it is, if it hits on all these points, it's definitely going to help the brain, anxiety, stress, how you deal with it, because there's no such thing as a stress-free existence, right? Nobody wakes up and has a day without one thing going slightly off the tracks. So how do we manage it? And this is a great way to manage it, the best way.
Excuse me, sorry about that. So, and then one of the quotes that stuck with me in this study: instilling lifelong skills and passion for physical activity and exercise in recruits may mitigate chronic disease and strengthen positive mental health coping mechanisms. Obviously, you just basically said that in your own terms, but that is absolute. That was the biggest thing. And what are we always talking about fighting here? Chronic disease.
I know. Yeah. Like it always comes back. It always comes full circle. It's not like we have to plan it and pretend and make it all fit by jamming the pieces together in the puzzle. Like it really is like your health. Like this is your hospital. This is your doctor's office. This is your chiropractor. This is your psychiatrist. Like you get so much out of what you do here. And we see a lot of people within these walls come off all their prescription meds. All the time. That's nothing new, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's not like we're just wishful thinking that we're so cool talking about chronic disease and mental health, combating it with nutrition and exercise and CrossFit specifically, because that's what we do, but we see it all the time.
Absolutely. And so I wasn't going to bring it up, but you brought up a very good point about what CrossFit does. So when I was a cop, when I would go to sleep, I would probably usually take about 2 Advil PMs. And then instead of using water to wash it down, I would wash it down with a swig of ZzzQuil. And so that was how
Yeah.
and that would just be, that would start getting me to the point where my eyes are closed and I could actually let my body calm down and I could fall asleep. It wasn't until I started CrossFit that I not only found out that I couldn't do CrossFit while I was feeling that groggy.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to stop. And not only that, I couldn't do CrossFit while I was hungover. So it forced me to limit my drinking. That's how much fitness changed everything about me as a cop. And I was somebody who thought that I was doing it right because I was still working out. Like at the time, I may not have been doing CrossFit, but I was going to the gym every day. I was running. I was doing push-ups and sit-ups. I was doing all the classics, and I was able to do those things hungover. I was able to do those things groggy. It didn't matter. And when I came here, this style of fitness, how it was so much being thrown at me from lifting, running, every day that I wasn't at my best, I felt it in the workout and it got to the point where I was like, oh no, I could tell a clear difference in between when I'm good and when I'm not. And I couldn't tell that difference when I was kind of quote unquote half-assing.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what this does. This changes lives. And here's the other thing with that, guys, it you don't have to be a cop to be dealing with mental stress. There's people here who have regular quote unquote 9 to 5 jobs that are still very stressful. They have to meet deadlines, they have things to do. This style of fitness is one of the things that is going to literally help that mental clarity and it's going to take away that stress. That's how come we are always trying to tell everybody CrossFit or this are constantly varied functional movements, in my humble opinion, is the best style of training out there. And you're talking to someone who's done regular bodybuilding style. I've done all kinds of different programs. I've done the HIIT. I've done it all, but nothing has ever given me the result that CrossFit did. Nothing had ever even got. Oh, here's the better part. Once I started doing it, I became a better cop because number one, I was more mentally there. I was more freaking focused. I actually felt good coming into work. I wanted to stay longer. I wanted to do more because I felt that much better. So think about this as a supervisor, like who or as like a command staff. You want officers who are fit because they perform better in all other domains. That's just it's the natural effect of fitness. And everybody acts like fitness is just a secondary thing when literally if you make that the primary, everything else that follows becomes almost gold. You basically you basically can't lose. And so me and you have always said that about fitness, but there is something specifically about this particular style that makes it a little bit better than what I've seen out there. You could be like, Ty, that's your own opinion. I know people have their own mindset, but I'm speaking from someone who's done almost everything. Hell, I almost did everything just to lose it, 200 pounds. But nothing ever did what CrossFit did for me.
It's unparalleled. And you can see by how many people do it CrossFit at their gym, but name it something else. So.
Oh, yeah.
And even schools now are bringing it. It's wonderful. And I was just considering like the more well-rounded trained athlete, the better the person, whether it's a cop, a businessman, a mom. And that's like when I coach classes, like if you're in my gym, you're an athlete. Everyone in here is an athlete. It doesn't matter if you're on the leaderboard or not. CrossFit makes you an athlete. Like you're doing the things that everyone quote unquote thought was too hard and were scared to try. And then they're doing it because it's accessible and this whole generalized fitness wins, right? Like
that's
unmatched.
that's exactly where it's at. So really quick, just to get back to the quote, it's not about specializing, it's about generalizing. And the reason why Glassman obviously mentioned this because you don't know what the job will throw at you. So you must train to be ready for anything. This is why CrossFit grew so much in the tactical communities, because it was finally something that everybody who took part in it immediately knew that this would have a benefit on the job or in the field, whether you were military, cop, it didn't matter. Now, it's not because it's trendy, but because it mimics unpredictable demands of the job. So anybody who's done a CrossFit workout knows, number one, every workout is always different. It could be something from doing heavy clean and jerks under a certain time domain, forcing that anaerobic threshold, to something like a Murph, where you're talking about a mile run in a vest to 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups and squats. And you're like, all of these different elements test the fitness on all different levels, from cardiovascular to, like I said, anaerobic, to that lactic threshold stuff, to where it's like those long, like medium ones, where it's like an 8-minute WOD, and you're not quite a full sprint, but you're about 85 to 90% effort. That to me is literally like a fight, because that's usually, in between the whole entire process of the fight actually taking place, you having to deal with that initial spike of, oh my God, I'm actually in a fight, to then trying to get on the radio, trying to get your back up there, which you don't know where they're at. God forbid it's grave shift and everyone's back at the station and you're one out who's doing work. And now you at least got about a 4-minute response time. And that's them hauling ass there. And so now you have to deal with this suspect for 4 minutes. And anyone who's been in a fight for 1 minute, 60 seconds knows it feels like an eternity. 60 seconds in a fight is, everyone's like, dude, I felt like I was fighting forever. And you're like, bro, check the body cam, you're fighting for 37 seconds.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that, bro. It took you guys 10 minutes to get here. Nah, we were here in like a minute freaking 20. No, bro, there's no way. And that's how come what Glassman said was, it is much, much better to be a little more general, which usually doesn't sound good, but because of the demands of the job being so different across the board, an individual has to have a general level of fitness, which means not a pretty good cardio, but strength is trash. CrossFit gives you great cardio. It gives you great strength. It gives you endurance. It also forces you to be flexible, and it allows you to carry out these things and build these domains up all at once, as opposed to trying to just, okay, I'm going to spend 4 weeks working on my 5K time. Perfect. I got that. Now I'm going to spend this week getting to 100 push-ups. Now I have that. Everything else is starting to fall off as you're making these goals. And that's what happens when most people try to do fitness in that way, where, nope, I'm going to isolate and just focus on that. They don't realize that they've literally cut themselves. That's like cutting off an arm. There's so much more that needs to be done. And that's how come we always say that CrossFit allows for you to get the buildup across the board. Because while you're running, you're building up your cardio. And then say you do a 400-meter run, you come back and you got 10 clean and jerks. So now I'm hitting the strength. And then I have some pull-ups. So now I'm having to get used to pulling up my own body weight while I'm tired. That's the combination that is going to build a well-rounded athlete, but also a well-rounded law enforcement officer.
Yeah, facts. Think about this. This is the only training I've done consistently in my life for 12 years. I can go on hikes, bike rides, I can swim, I can play pickleball, keep up. Yeah. Maybe not with the calf. See, no, pivot too much. No, I'm kidding. But anything somebody wants to do, I don't have to think, oh, I can't do that. I can do that. I can help another dude, a guy and me, move a king size bed up 4 flights of stairs. This little 5'2" lady, I can help with that. Like, I can literally go to Costco and have the 7 bags. Like, I'm straight out of Italy, where they're like, one trip or forget about it. That's how they all are there too. Little tiny women with like bags and children on their back. Like, one trip from the car, take, all my $400 from Costco into the house. Like, I don't need help with anything other than reaching things, because it has not made me taller. That's my only complaint about CrossFit. I've not gotten taller. I don't know. Then no one promised me that, but for some reason, I hope, like, this is like the miracle of miracles. Maybe I'll be 5'6" soon, but no. But that's the thing. Like, you're ready for anything. Or I've had to run out and grab a kid out of the street before a car hit them. Like, I can act on impulse with strength, agility, speed, and confidence because of what I do in this gym. It's the only time I've been able to do that. So I like that.
And so you just used one of my favorite C words, confidence.
Yeah.
And the reason that I love that is because that is the secret sauce of just doing this consistently. That is one of those added benefits that you get. You get the confidence in yourself because you obviously see yourself doing these amazing things in the gym, which, like you said, well, shit, I'm strong as hell. I actually can carry these bags. Yeah. Hell, I could go and grab that kid.
Yeah.
And it creates confidence. And that's that's the secret, because if you're in this field, in the law enforcement field, and
Yes.
you're confident while you're doing your job, you're going to be so freaking good at it. It is crazy to tell, because you could see it in a briefing room, who the more weaker, timid cops are, they're just kind of going through, and who the confident ones are. Like, no, I feel good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I look good. I feel good. And guess what? I'm going to go out there in the streets. I'm going to perform good.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what needs to get done.
You guys don't have half a second to second guess yourself. That could be life or death, right? It's not like you see a guy reaching for what could be a gun. You're like, let's think about this.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling too confident. I'm feeling a little tired. I don't know if I'm strong enough to tackle him. What if he shoots me? And by the time you're done being like not confident, you're dead.
Yeah.
So confidence
you're
is huge.
you're fucked.
Yeah, it's game over, like literally. So, okay, let's talk about these departments that still treat fitness like a personal choice, right? They're failing their officers. If the only standard is passing a basic test at the start of your career, that's not leadership, it's liability. So what you're meaning by this is like, hey, I passed the physical test and the written test, got my badge with the ceremony, and they're like, good job, you're good to go. But we don't really care if you look and feel the strong and good like a year from now, 5 years from now. They just kind of like next,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
You at least met the standard,
The minimum physical
and that's it.
requirements.
And
Yeah.
so one of the things that obviously needs to happen with that is this isn't the officer. Well, okay, you could say that it's the officer's problem if he doesn't want to continue his fitness after he's obviously probably saw how it changed his life in the police academy,
Mhm.
his or her life. But it's also on leadership. And I will tell you that leadership at certain departments is not the same. Uh, Fuck it. When I was at the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, I could tell you that fitness wasn't a priority. It was something that certain individuals did, and there were certain deputies there who were known as, oh yeah, that's the fit one, and people just like that was that. But fitness wasn't it wasn't on everybody's list. Like, nobody really cares. Like, you could see admin, they were sloppy, they had their stomachs hanging over their belts, they didn't care. They're like, oh yeah, that's one of those CrossFit kids, he looks kind of strong. I don't got time for that. Like, that was literally things that I heard. Now I'll fast forward to a different leadership time when I went to Daly City, and the chief there now, he was all about CrossFit, like to the point where he had his L1. Like, that was something that he would always, he modeled it. You'd see him in the morning in the gym working out 6 a.m. every morning, leading by example, seeing other officers come in, challenging them to workouts, writing workouts on the board for other officers to do so they could see what he did. And it was one of those things, it was inspiring. And not only that, I remember during the gym remodel job that they did, they literally built a CrossFit gym in the lower level of our department. That's how big it was when or that was the biggest shift. But not only that, be, because our chief was that way, or because our leadership was that way, everyone who that gym was always packed. We had guys who would come in an hour early to get in their workout. You'd have guys who would get off a shift, and just because it was there and they would see somebody else doing it, they'd feel obligated.
Yeah.
I remember there were certain teams who started to get into the mindset, hey guys, let's come in an hour power shift and work out together. All that starts with leadership, leading by example, and making it like, this is what we do here. And other people just naturally got sucked into it. So it is something that the leadership has to prioritize. But if you're a leader and you're not leading by example, then you obviously don't have any room to expect your officers to live to some standards that you can't uphold. And that's the problem, is that most individuals who get into this job and rise up, they get into this mindset, well, I'm out the streets, I'm in the office now, fitness isn't huge, but they don't realize that everyone is watching them. Everyone is watching how they carry themselves and how they act. And that is the image that the department sees as either acceptable or normal. And that dictates everything down. And so if you're watching this and you are in this field, and you're supervisor, you have to know someone's watching you, and you need to be the example, at least if this is what you want out of your officers. If you want officers who are confident, if you want officers who aren't always out on 48-50 and injuries and always fucking hurt, if you want officers who show up looking like they're fit for duty, they look good in uniform, they just give off the image of somebody who is happy to be here and wants to do the job. It starts with you as a supervisor by being that example. And if you're not fit, it just doesn't happen. And that's the one thing that people don't realize, is that you can't pay for fitness. It has to be something that you do. And so it's easier to be the person leading by example than the person who's just talking, because it has to be something that you can do. And there's nothing worse than a fat admin staff guy trying to tell someone else, hey, you guys need to stay in shape.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So yeah.
I mean, you got to lead by example.
Yeah.
That'd be like, what if we just rolled into class? We're like, hey, let's tandem coach today. And we just roll up the chairs on wheels, and we're like eating Chick-fil-A because it's not Sunday and they're open. Maybe even the fried, maybe gluten bread. Maybe I'm having a regular Coke, not a Coke Zero. And the sauce is on my face because everybody loves the sauce. Apparently, it's all they talk about. So Chick-fil-A, whatever. It's like, I don't even know what's in it, but it can't be good, right? And we're just like, hey, why don't you go faster? Why don't you go heavier? No, don't do that. No. They have like parenting, coaching, running law enforcement. Like the kids, the students, the pupils, the cadets, the officers, they're watching.
Yes.
And you have to know, like, even if you don't care enough to keep yourself healthy, care enough to keep the people you're in charge of healthy, right? So I get, for the parents that are like, I'm never going to be fit for my kids, at least stop feeding them crap. There's always something you can do. So even if you're like, I don't know, the sheriff or undersheriff, and you're like, I'm good. At least give them a gym. At least give them incentive. Or make it mandatory. Why don't people have to pass? Maybe that. Well, what should we be doing, right? Like that's the question. And on a side note, for like people in our area, we have cops from San Ramon PD that work out here on and off. I think they have a gym there as well. Maybe your department doesn't offer anything. Like talk to them about hooking up with a local CrossFit gym. And I know like we'd work to make it affordable for the department to keep their guys in shape. We'll move mountains to keep their guys in shape, because somebody needs to care enough for like men and women that are out on the street every day, like risking their lives, right?
I love that. I love that. No, and you're absolutely right in that sense, that if most CrossFit gyms would be willing to work with the local agencies to obviously do what they can to help help them out with getting their officers fit. Even I know that one. Who is it? Souza, doesn't he do that?
Yeah, he's the fire department, fire academy.
Yeah,
CrossFit Livermore, Matt. He trains them, and so they
volunteers his own time.
Yeah,
like I know that if there was any agency who was like, hey, Ty and Lori, would you be able to make some time for us to?
Of course.
Yeah, of course we would. Like,
absolutely.
And yeah, so if you're watching this and you know someone who may not know where to start to get their agency fit, it's like, look, hit us up. We could give you guys workouts. We could come up with a structure that can help you guys. Or better yet, if you're here in the 925, you should come here, because you're going to be dealing with people who actually know about the demands of the job. It's not just we aren't just coaches only. We've actually had life. So we could actually
done a lot of things.
Yeah. So we could actually shed some light and help you guys out. But the last thing that we're going to talk about is why it needs to be, well, we kind of beat it on the head, but it's just fitness needs to no longer just be something that is talked about in the police academy. It needs to be something that is a long-term lifetime like plan or mindset. You have to have the lifetime mindset, especially if you're in public safety. We're talking about a 30-year career for most of these guys. 30 years is a long time, especially if the job is physically demanding. And if fitness isn't a part of your lifestyle, the chances of you probably making it at 30 years, pretty slim.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that. And not only that, it's going to be, it just isn't even worth how you're going to allow your body to feel not taking it seriously. And then by the time you get your pension, I'll be honest, probably after a year or two, you're going to end up having a heart attack or dealing with some chronic disease. And all that time that you spent in this field dealing with this stressful work is going to be worthless because you didn't even get to live to enjoy what you were waiting on. Now, to wrap it up really, really quickly, let's get to the wrap up section and we'll call it after that.
All right. So wrapping it up, fitness is not optional, which we shouldn't even have to say, but we got to point it out. Especially not for a first responder, especially not law enforcement. It's survival. It could be the difference between life and death for you and those you swore to protect, right? It's that kind of a thing. What you're doing, like you're serving others, it's a service, it's a legacy. And if you're in law enforcement, retired, active, or new to the game, you owe it to yourself and to the public to train for the unknown. And that reminds me, my grandpa always said, expect the unexpected. All the gems today. But it's true. You always have to be confident, alert, on your toes. Like every cop I know goes to a restaurant, back against the wall, no one can be behind them. I still do that when I like have it. Like, there's things that you need to be vigilant, and you need to be able to perform even under the most grueling circumstances of utter exhaustion. Sometimes you work a 36-hour shift. I mean, but even Ty, like I can remember, you were coming in just as a member, and you would work like a day and a half, 2 days, and they come in here, work out, and then go home. Like you just can't have that excuse. Like the working that long wasn't a workout; it was work.
Yeah.
And now you need to give your body what it needs to stay healthy and live a long time and perform, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and like we also said to any leaders out there, any sergeants, lieutenants, captains, chiefs, guys, it starts upstairs with you guys. You guys have to be you have to be the example that you want to see. If you want to see your agency with officers who are fit, officers who are confident, who look good in uniform, who make the patch on their arm look good when they're out there, it starts with you guys making sure that fitness isn't just something that's talked about in the police academy. It's talked about in the briefing room. It's talked about, hey, did you work out? Coming down, talking with your officers and actually asking them and let them know that it is important and that it's valuable to be fit. That is what's going to be the game changer. It has to start from up top because that is literally how everything filters. Everything filters down. So if there's ever a problem with an agency when it comes to fitness, the first place to look is up. Last things. Guys, that's all we have.
That is.
This is episode 22. 22 episodes. We want to thank everyone for obviously sticking around. We just saw some of our stats. We had a lot more subscribers to our YouTube. We had a lot more followers to our Spotify, and we haven't really had a chance to just say thank you guys to everyone who watches the show. We appreciate the support. We really do.
We really do. We love doing this, and we're always going to give you good content. We're not just going to waste your time. So thank you. Anyone in law enforcement, share this with a sergeant, lieutenant, sheriff, undersheriff, a rookie, people that are running the FTO programs. Do they call it field training officer program in California? Sorry, I've been saying the wrong thing. It's been decades. And let's just do what we can to get everybody healthy. And one last thing for those in the admin position, if you need a bigger personal why, because when you retire, you want to be healthy enough and feel good enough to go enjoy your retirement. Even if you're not like revved up from like, yes, I want everyone underneath me to be the fittest and strong. I want just an army of like well-trained soldiers to protect and serve. If that's not enough, your own health relies upon it too. Your pension isn't gonna, take you all over the world enjoying it if you're in a bed with oxygen or a wheelchair. So, get out there and take care of yourself too, because you could make the difference between having a chronic illness or disease, or maybe even just reversing it if you have one now, if you join the crew and get active in this beautiful thing. I love law enforcement. I can't say enough good things about it. So I want them all of you to thrive and be your best. Please like and subscribe to our channels. Follow Coach Ty 925, Coach Lori 925. Yeah, and next week we'll be back with another great episode. So thank you all for everything.
Keep it real, keep it classy, San Ramon. You guys are the best.